this northern corner of Omu. You guys are beneath like this overhang of the cliff. It's still very much kind of verdant jungle around you. You've got the small little corridor to your east. The central like main corridor is directly kind of behind Jarek as he's kind of stumbling out as this door opens back up. And basically, Taryn, you've got this tug in your pocket from this locket being pulled away from you and towards the west. And we're kind of going to pick up at that moment where you guys start to actually like follow where this pull is taking you. And it's going to basically draw you towards an area where you can see vines are covering another entrance about 20 feet up this cliff edge, just off to the north, like 40 or just off to the west, like 40 or so feet.
And so Jarrett kind of comes out like he's once he's out, he's kind of sucking in big lungfuls of air, kind of trying to clear his system and stuff. It kind of gets a little bit of a second wind as they start heading over this way.
That would be kind of when he sees you coming. But yeah, are you sure you're okay? I mean, what happened
Uh,
in there?
uh, some sort of gas. I eventually managed to, I think, pluck up most of it, but it was wasn't sure I'd make it out again. That door hadn't opened back up. Just like shakes his head, and he's kind of and Tara knows by this point that he's also Jarek is somewhat claustrophobic, so that only added to the kind of fright. But he somewhat managed to keep his head about him and managed to survive. But and he's looking kind of, it takes him a few minutes, but you see the color kind of returning to his face, and he's kind of eventually, he's feeling all right again.
So if you all start to climb your way up towards this entryway, you are going to see a similar wall. This one is a wall of skulls in front of you. It's about 15 or so feet down this little like crack in the stone behind all these vines. And you can kind of see like these skulls are all almost triangular shape, and you'll start to notice that they all have horns kind of pointing in different directions, and they kind of link along, and each of these faces is in the same kind of like painful scream as the mouth is like drawn fully open, and they make a border from the base about 5 or so feet to the top of this stone door, and then lead back down around the other side towards the ground. And in the center, you can see that there is a organization of holes that are slotted for the cubes that you already have. Very similar to the last one that you all look like, but this is 3 rows across. Like it's 3 by 3. My bad. 3 rows of 3. That's the way to say it.
This guy's pretty impatient.
It's sent, so I'm not sure why he's panicking.
Yeah, so Jarek kind of moves up, taking a closer look at these uh, these skulls. Um, kind of similarly to the previous area, he's going to try and look at the kind of inspect the 9 hole, see if there's any differences that he can tell, or if they look to be fairly kind of just 9 symmetrical slots.
Do you think this is more like looking them over and just trying to like look around this actual like door or wall? Or are you kind of like feeling inside of and like measuring these spaces, like getting your like fingers up against like the gaps to like feel out are they the same size? Do you think it's more physical or more visual?
I think given what happened before, he'd be a bit leery, so he would stick to the visual inspection.
Gotcha. Roll a perception here. I think looking it over, this door looks pretty much exactly the same as the last. It's effectively the same kind of skull border around these cube slots, and it just kind of clicks in your head like this one has space for 9. The last one was wrong because it didn't have space for 9. I would definitely put, at very least, um, damn, I don't know why I was saying like Charwin was coming to mind. Quinn and Zeros would like kind of look around at you guys and recognize that if a door is going to sink down, it's like sinking down right on top of their heads. If this is the same as the last one, uh, the two of you can kind of interpret that how you would like, but I feel like everybody would recognize that point that if this is the same trap, that's like the end result.
Well, Taryn, I suppose there's nothing to do but try again. Do you think perhaps we try to, now that there's 9, perhaps we put them in um, the order that you take a north-south orientation, put them in the kind of same order that the temples are in the city?
Yeah, I'm still kind of hooked on. We have that the enemies oppose, and I just gotta check the door. But I think Ankh was kind of neutral, if I remember right. So if that's in the middle, and everything else is the way we put it before. The enemies opposed to each other, and then it just gotta check where I've written. Sorry,
Then would you
You
put
were
them?
looking for that?
I was just checking with Ankh if they had any enemies, so to say, in the legend. But no, yeah. No, Ankh was the only one without enemies, it seemed.
But then would you put the if enemies opposed, would you put them next to each other, left to right, up, down? Exactly. Would you? There seems like there would be multiple ways to have them oppose each other.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more than literally just straight opposed. I mean, sure, they could be opposed, but yeah. Hmm, that's a question. I'm thinking more like if you think like what's it called, like north, south, east, west, opposed like that. Northwest, south, east.
I mean, worth a shot, I suppose. If you start to hear a grinding noise, perhaps this time grab the cubes immediately and get back out of here.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like maybe people should step back a bit just in case too, because if this
So
is trapped, we don't know what.
technically you guys would have like Dragon Bait, Kimber, as well as Echo right now standing at the base of all of this. So
Well, let's try it your way, Taryn.
Right. So, do you want to put them in, or should I? I mean, I'm pretty quick on my feet, so I can run if something happens. I think.
Jarek will kind of put his make a gesture like go ahead.
All right, then. Tara will put them in basically like on the false entrance, like with them opposed in the like north, south, east, west, and then Ankh in the middle. So
do you happen to remember like just listing them off? Who's opposed to
yeah,
them?
I had it written down. I'm just trying to see. It's like in the margins, like Moa opposed to Wongo, Ijin opposed to Ubalaka, Kubasan opposed to Papasodo, and Nang Nang opposed to Shagambi. I can write them into the boxes if you want.
Gotcha. Nope. I'm pretty sure that checks out. Like, just trying to listen to it real quick. But yeah, the opposition is still like the key. That first clue definitely kind of will click to you. That it at least gives you a little bit there. And yeah, when you place, um, assuming you do Unk first or last, who do you think would be the final cube? What do you think you would be doing there?
I mean, just going from how I did the last one, I'm probably gonna do the opposing ones first, and then Ankh in the middle last.
Gotcha. That's kind of how I feel like I would end up doing it, where I set in all the other ones. Um, do an intelligence check for me, please.
Oh, that's never a good sign.
I'm not making this crazy for you. It's definitely just, yeah. So you do a solid job getting all of these cubes in, and you're like checking with yourself to make sure before you're placing these cubes into these slots that they are all good. And one after another across the kind of like lines, like top left, bottom right, top center, top right, bottom left, and then the sides, and then you put Unk in finally. When you put the Unk cube into it and it kind of slides in a few inches before, like just before it would go flush, just like all the others, it kind of rests against the back of this little, it's not like an alcove, but essentially like this inset, and you're going to start to hear a grinding noise. One, two, you guys start to see as this door is going to start to rise up in front of you. 3, 4, and the door just kind of continues to rise up. And the cubes are going with it. What you guys do is you see about 15 or so feet in front of you a very similar door that is made out of stones, and it has these same skulls of these screaming demon faces just going up and around the lintel back down to the ground. And this one on the inside of the door, it's just skulls, but humanoid skulls. 6, 7. Most of the door has like ascended into the ceiling above you.
How do the skulls on the second door? Do they go the whole length of the like up vertically, horizontal?
My apologies. I just kind of switched you over, and I don't want to do it yet because I had like a hide reveal thing set, and I didn't want to reveal. What was the question about the skulls there?
On the second door, do they go like all the way like floor to ceiling, side to side? Are they kind of like a border similar to the first one?
Okay, yeah, the demon skulls are a border in the same way. The inside of this door is skulls. No, I'm saying that wrong. The outside border of this is the demon skulls. The inside of this door is filled with skulls. There is in particular a extraordinarily large, like a non-humanoid skull that is the center that kind of sticks out of this door. Give me a second. I'm like almost have you on the map where you can actually see this corridor, and you can kind of see like the top-down view of this skull. It is a pretty large skull. I think at very least, you all kind of know of the giants coming after Artis Kimber. I don't think it would be absurd for you all to first wonder if this is a giant skull. But basically, again, outline of demon skulls that are screaming, humanoid skulls that are probably actual real skulls, and then kind of the center of the door, almost where you would expect like a knocker, is where this giant skull is. Kind of just facing directly into your eyes, and it's about 15 or 20 feet up this corridor ahead of you. And the door above you is just ascending into the ceiling.
Yeah, so I guess Jarek is going to move once like kind of the door is raised enough, he'll kind of like try to move inside, waving Zeros behind him.
Yeah, and Terran would follow. Definitely follow.
So, as you start to move across this space of the door above you, you're going to see as the jaw of this skull, the giant skull, starts to drop open until by the time you're like a step or two into the room, the jaw's like opened up so much that it is now in a very similar like scream, with this massive gape inside of its jaw, and you are going to see as a skeletal arm starts to reach out of this screaming skull, and there's a glass hourglass, kind of like a I mean, it's the hourglass figure because it's hourglasses, but like a sand hourglass. A hand is going to reach out, and as the arm extends all the way, it's going to flip over, and from the door, a handle is going to just kind of like fall outward at like a 45-degree angle. So there's this hourglass reaching out of the mouth of the giant, flipped over, and a handle right beneath the skull of the giant ahead of you. 10, 9, 8,
There
7,
was a handle, right?
6.
Terran
There's
is gonna
indeed a handle.
Terran's gonna
5,
grab the handle and pull, I
4.
think.
Gotcha. Who else is inside of this? Like, do you think it's only the two of you reacting? Do you think other people are following you as you two are heading in?
Zeros would be following after Jarek.
Yeah, and
So you guys
Quinn would
right
also
now
be there.
have both of them following. Do you think the others are following so close? Is everybody huddled up together?
I think the others would stay a bit further behind at least. So they would probably not be in.
Gotcha. If that's what you guys are all feeling right now, I want you to do dexterity saving throws for everyone. For the moment that Terran pulls on this handle, the floor of this entire section is going to fall out, and you all are going to see a spike pit open up beneath your feet.
Fuck.
So
Dexterity.
again, dexterity saving throws for everybody. And then for each of your characters, please. Let's see. We're going to have 2 2 saving throws. I think 4 saving throws from each of your characters. These are just going to be normal con 10s, but you have to make 4 saving throws. No, wait, 3 of them. Yeah, 3? 3 saves. The first one is for 2 wounds. Bam, that's what it is.
So con saves for everyone, or just
It's going to be different for you guys, but I want to do the sidekicks real quick. So with that, Zeros is taking 1 wound. And then with that one, same idea. The first one was for 2 wounds. Charwin, Quinn. Damn, why do I have that name? Quinn is going to take 1 wound as well. So you all are falling into this spike pit. Between the 2 of you, Jarek, you are able to cling to the face of the actual giant skull as the floor falls out. Taryn is able to brace himself on the actual handle that he pulled. But the other 2 are going to fall into this pit of spikes and will basically be impaled on the spikes with the weight of their own falling about 20 or so feet. And then the spikes themselves are also poison.
Is there enough? Sorry, is there enough room for Jarek to like pull himself up and have anywhere to stand, or are these pits essentially the whole floor?
Yeah, this is going to end up being the entire floor in this room. Um, I think this is more just a question of the actual time that it will take you all. Effectively, Taryn is the only one who can really move around here without a problem. Kind of just crawling along the walls. These doors have kind of like fallen in, and that's probably the only real seam that you have on the top is the actual like place where they would fall out to each side with like a center inseam along the stonework. So I feel like Taryn climbing out of it would be pretty simple. Jarek, you can certainly have a chance to climb out without ever getting down into the actual spikes. The other 2, you all are going to have to devise some sort of a plan on basically how you're going to assist them out of there. Otherwise, in the long run, again, simply as a time thing, we can kind of fast forward till you guys get out of it if you don't want to problem solve the actual thing.
Did anything happen with the hourglass when Taryn pulled the handle, or did he just touch the handle and it fell away, or the floor fell away?
The sand would have been about halfway through. It was, but like when he pulled the handle is when the floor fell through. I think the sand would have just fallen through the hourglass. Um, yeah, you'd have a pretty close-up view of it. You essentially have to grab onto the skull. I think it's perfectly fine for each of you to somewhat recognize that the sand was basically still just falling. There's definitely a lot going on where it's not going to be like you were just staring at it, like you're staring at a stopwatch. But you feel like a solid, it took like 10 or so seconds for that sand to flow through the hourglass. And it was midway through that when Taryn was able to get to the handle.
Taryn, do you see anything else?
yeah. Taryn's gonna. I'm thinking maybe we could see if there's any way. I mean, how to word this? to investigate to see if we can find some way to, if there's a way to reset the trap, basically. Usually there is some way.
Roll an investigation check for me. I assume your investigation is better than your insight.
Oops, that no,
They're
it's
probably the
actually
same.
that's actually one under because investigation is intelligence.
Gotcha.
7.
I think you. I don't think there's a big part to recognizing the mechanism other than kind of coming to sort of like where you're hearing the clicks of like cogs inside of this kind of wall around you. Let's call it the like northern section of the actual spike pit. If you kind of like climb down a little bit, you can hear like the actual clicks and ticks of cogs. For what it's worth, I think with that kind of insight, you can know that this trap is going to reset. It is in the process of resetting itself. I would say you're probably looking at, like, let's say, fast, rapid clicks of a cog that resonate really low with kind of like a deep click each time. That's telling you that there's a lot of small teeth on a very big wheel, and that wheel is resetting it. But for what it is worth, it's going to take an hour for this trap to reset. There's not going to be a floor in this room for 1 hour.
And has the door remained open behind us, or is that closed again?
That door is currently open.
All right, if we know that it's gonna reset, and
Taryn, does the lever go both ways, or can it only go like you pulled it down? If it go, it's like you if it can you put it like up from its original position, or is it just a two like
I don't know, but I could check.
My apologies. What were you checking there?
And if the handle goes more than one way, basically, if I can, instead of just how I imagined it, I'm thinking like pulling it down handle, but I'm not sure if that's right way.
You can manipulate it, and it ends up going back to the next position.
All right.
Like nothing actually changes with the pit itself.
yeah? And my thought was like, there's not like a third position, right? So like if it's neutral, it was starting in neutral, and he like pulled it down, and it can't like, and you return it to neutral, doesn't then go up too, right? It's just the two positions.
Correct. Yeah. And
Um,
even if you thought to move it back to the down position, nothing's going to happen.
it turns thinking if, like we said, the trap is gonna reset, but maybe we can, like the trap doors, they fell like in on itself. It's like two doors falling into the pit to the sides,
Yeah.
basically.
So they like opened up to the right side. There's kind of like a plank that's hanging that is 5 feet wide and 20 feet long. And then on the left side of this room, there's again like another kind of plank of this stone that's fallen in, and it's 5 feet wide and 20 feet long. And each of those basically has like a lip of like an inch or two on the side of each of these rooms. And it's basically going from the point of the door you walk through to the door that is ahead of you, where this skull is coming out of.
Yeah, then maybe we can put like I have some pittons. If we can put them into, I'm guessing there's like seams on the side. Try to push them down there basically, and make it so that the pit where Quinn and Ceros is in, that those that the floor doesn't go reset on those. We can maybe pull them up later when the trap has reset.
We'll probably need to get on solid ground. Can you open that door?
I'm not sure, but
Because Jarek's still hanging from like the lip at this point.
yeah.
Like, there's not much we can do
No,
in his current position.
I know that. I'm the only one who can move around. But yeah, Terran's gonna try to look at the door, see if there's any way to get it open. Basically, if there's any kind of seam or anything it can
You could
handle.
roll a perception check, but without having to see any sort of numbers. You're going to look this door over, and it's a bunch of skulls. The handle, there's nothing to this door that resembles like an actual door handle that you haven't pulled on and open up the trap at your feet already. The skulls like look real enough. None of them seem to hide any sort of like entryway. This is something other than like a typical door. So at very least, some of the someone like Eku or Artis could simply throw you all a rope from beyond and start to offer you all aid out of there. I think most of you all understand like Eku can fly you out of there. Pit shouldn't be a big thing keeping you all there. It's just the question of what your kind of plans are here.
Honestly, I forgot that Echo could fly.
Yeah, I try not to make it a big point because I don't want it to solve all of your problems. But this pit isn't meant to be a problem for too long here. The question is going to be the choice. So if you guys come out of the pit, basically, do you all essentially take aid from Ropes and or Eku?
Yeah, I think Jarek would. Yeah, he'd want to get back on the solid ground, so he would. Yeah.
So getting yourselves outside of this, where you are now kind of looking in at this. I'm sorry I didn't actually prepare the map where I could set you guys there. I didn't really think about that. But you're basically going to find that this trap is going to reset in an hour. While you guys are sitting there, you are going to start to hear as the outer door is going to start to sink down. And you have 10 seconds to decide in the same way, where by the time it starts to move, what are you guys thinking as this door starts to close and those doors inside are still open? There's no pit inside of that room as this door is sliding down. And you see about 10% of it.
I'm sorry, did you say there's no pit inside the?
No, the pit is still open.
Oh, okay, and then I heard it really wrong. I was like, what?
Are
Yeah,
the
like
cubes still in
the outer door is starting to come down. It's going to be about 3 or 4 seconds before you see the bottom section of the door where the cubes had gone, and there are no cubes in it.
Oh fuck yeah!
About 5 seconds.
I think we should go
6
in, guys.
seconds.
Sharon is gonna move back in.
So who do you think's going inside of this door? If you guys have 4 seconds to decide, as Taryn goes in, 3,
Yeah, Jarek will follow.
2.
Yeah, Quinn
Zeros
will
will follow
follow.
Jarek.
All right. So if you guys go in with those 4, right now there is going to be like a crashing of you guys, basically like diving in to what is effectively this pit right now. Let's do another dexterity save to see effectively, Taryn. I'm going to say you ran in there about halfway mark. That door is probably like maybe a little bit of a limbo for you to duck under. You can do a dexterity check at advantage simply to see if something stupid happens, but you would have to do something stupid twice. For the other 3, I just want a dexterity saving throw from you. Oh yeah, my bad. It would have been a dexterity save, but regardless, those are 2 good ones for you there, Taryn. How much does Zeros weigh? Taryn, if you start to see Zeros falling in, would you assist him? Are you paying attention to Zeros as it kind of slips a little bit?
I mean, he would be paying attention a little bit back. So if he sees him slip, he would try to help him, not really thinking if he's actually going to be able to help him.
I mean,
Gotcha.
I'm not sure how much like gear and stuff he's carrying, but I would say probably at least like with the, assuming he's carrying like the normal kind of equipment and stuff, plus his regular weight, probably 200 pounds.
So let me get a strength check from both. It could be strength or athletics. I don't think Taryn has athletics, so yeah, that doesn't matter. But let me get strength checks from both of them. But it's a 0 for Taryn. This is a straight D20. Oh, that crit though. Um, yeah, I'd say that's enough to say that like you're able to assist Zeros for just enough that by the time Taryn's grip slips and loses Zeros, Zeros can reposition himself. You all can effectively, leaping into this door at the last minute, find yourselves kind of like clinging by your fingertips to these inner edges. With like the slipping of Zeros, Terran's able to, grab his wrist. Zeros starts to pull himself up as Terran loses that grip, but will kind of save himself a second fall into this pit. And the door is going to slam shut, and you guys are now locked in this little 20-foot hallway above this pit that's still like 10 or so feet below your feet. And you guys are just kind of clinging on there before about 3 or 4 seconds are going to go by. Any like initial thoughts while you all are clinging onto this by your fingers? And this is seconds in the panic.
I'm guessing there won't be much light in here, so Terran's going to try to get his rings to at least light up a little bit.
Did we ever decide on a command word? I feel like it was meant to be. Oh, maybe I didn't do a command word so they were more stealthy. But yeah, you can definitely create that little glow. It would be at least enough that everybody across the way can see each other. Maybe you can't really see like all the way down to the pit, but it's enough that you guys can see everything in this room in at least like dim light. Um, any like initial thoughts from your retinue, otherwise from Jarek? Because after about 3 or 5 seconds, the floor is going to start to raise up. So you guys are like pinched into this crack, and the closer the floor gets to level, like a 90-degree angle, the closer anything that is hanging over that kind of 5 foot would get cut off by the other floor, as well as your fingers start to get like towards getting pinched into the actual walls as they start to come up level. What are you all doing as that kind of levels off?
Can he try to essentially grab onto the outer, or the, not the, I guess like the inner lip of the thing as it's coming up, and try to essentially like pull himself up as it's rising before it before they meet, almost like the
I think I might just be describing it poorly. Like, if you're holding on to the edge that exists there, the closer the floor gets back to 90 degrees where gravity is holding you in place, the closer your hands will be to getting pinched. And as long as you don't hang for too long, like, nothing's really in danger. But as you guys are, like, clinging to this, the floor is going to kind of scissor back together before it, like, resembles this floor again. I'm sorry. I feel like that's poorly described.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought that like if we were since like we were hanging there as a floor started, essentially it was going to like cut us off, and we had to do something in order to essentially keep from being like smashed or caught.
Yeah, my bad. I feel like as I was describing that, to even ask the question was silly because by the time your body is in danger, like, I don't think Taryn is tall enough to be able to get injured, let alone would he be slow enough. Um, the others of you, it's basically like pull your legs in before this like hurts you. It seemed nonsensical once I got like back around to it, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. So once we're kind of on, once the kind of floor is back up again, like Jarek's looking at the side walls. Is there?
The, this the if you call this a drawing is kind of what I mean. Where like if these are the floors, your legs would be kind of like dangling into that area. I don't know. Oh, I have the fill-in thing. Um, that like triangle is where you would be gripping it when you're like vertical, and then it just closes up as the floor goes back to 9 degrees. I don't know if that helps at all. But after a few moments here, you guys are basically back on the level floor. And that's going to connect back up. What were you thinking there, Jack?
So Jarek is looking at the walls on either side, seeing if there's any, if these are just like blank stone or any sort of pictures or um, anything, I guess, unusual that jumps out immediately. Looking at the walls to the side.
Gotcha. So yeah, as that kind of happens, as you're starting to like get up and look for these walls, you're not going to notice much. The first thing that's going to happen is within moments of the floors reconnecting, once again, you're going to see that hand reach out of the mouth of the giant, and you'll see that this is all reset, and the clock is going to flip back over. And you'll like be, attention on the walls, just stark plain stone, when this kind of pops back out in your face again. And you guys are now like all kind of standing inside of this room, watching this clock count down 8, 7, 6. The handle's still there, giant skull, the counter's going through it. 4, 3, 2,
Jarek's just like
1.
bracing himself, like case of floor. He's like trying to like prepare himself to grab the edge if it drops out beneath him again.
Trying to like put pressure on 2 different walls so you can kind of hold like a triangle against like the little bit of the gap you had.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you all kind of brace yourselves and allow that clock to run out, nothing happens. The door's going to start to open up. You are still blocked off from the outside, but you're going to start to hear that slow grind. After about 10 or so seconds, this door is going to kind of disappear above you, and in front of you it's still dark. The glow of Terran's rings are something. I assume you guys light up a torch, and you'll start to see that there's a hall that opens up ahead of you. And like many things that you've experienced in Omu, this is like choked with jungle. and there's just probably about a 30-40 foot hall ahead of you. You can see vines and ferns growing all over the wall. You can't even really see any of the stonework that you can assume is there. There's little bits of like stone on the ground, but otherwise that's kind of moss covered. It almost looks like you're just like walking into a 10 by maybe 10 feet tall long 60-foot corridor of jungle. And at the end of it, flickering in your torchlight, you're going to see just a green face that like it's just catching the littlest bit of this light. Um, and like in these little shapes that kind of catch like the wisps of the fire, you can just make out kind of like the skull form of what seems to be another giant skull about 60 feet or so down this hall.
Derek is gonna move in once the kind of the door raises up.
So once the door gets all the way up, you guys are going to hear from outside as Eku kind of like speaks in. Voice is kind of like hushed. Artist is going to yell, and you guys will kind of hear like a little bit of like a muffled yell from him. After a few moments, you're going to hear each of you inside of your heads as Eku kind of speaks to you simultaneously. And are you all right? Good to know that you're alive. Can you find the way back out?
Jarek is going to try to kind of telepathically respond. Uh,
Make an Arcana check real quick. Yeah, so the others will actually see as Jarek, you like start to like move your lips a little bit, but as you start to like actually think your thoughts more than go to say them, you are actually going to be able to telepathically communicate effectively with Eku. The others are just going to see you kind of like move your lips before you go quiet.
yeah, so he'll say, "We may be able to make our way back. Don't know if we can get that door open." He'll warn them about the trap in this first room. Like, don't touch the lever. See it, um, but then he will.
The cubes are gone. I don't know if we'll be able to follow you.
Yes, I'm not sure either. Maybe on our own for now.
Taryn, are you going back to check the door? Or are you guys all getting across that pit and just resting on your laurels as soon as possible?
Well, I'm still hearing what Eku's saying too, right? So after hearing,
Yeah, she's not gonna cut off like the connection to the rest of you. There's no reason for that. She doesn't necessarily know the difference, or that I would say in general, Jarek would not be successful telepathically speaking. He's probably more than likely going to be speaking. So I think that was like one time where he was successfully doing it.
all of that then, as Terran hears that the cubes are gone, he's gonna go back to the door to check if there's like any way to open it from the inside.
And that will be where you confirm that this door is just a monolithic blank piece of stone on the inside.
Just go back to the others and yeah, I don't really think we're getting that door open from this side. It's yeah, not gonna happen.
Maybe at some point we can find some other way out of here, but unless we know if we could, how long it would take to try and break the door down. Seems fairly solidly constructed.
You're just gonna hear like a yell from the outside. Artists kind of yelling in, and just like a mumbled, kind of muffled sound coming through the actual door. Um, kind of something to the effect of, "We'll break you out of there," and you kind of like hear some like spell things happening on the opposite side. And then after a few moments, you'll hear Eku's voice. Perhaps we'll work on recovering the cubes again. They seem to have disappeared by magical means.
If we come across any of them, we'll let you know. Jarek at this point he's just kind of shouting this out loud. It's too much of an effort for him to try to.
You like got like a little headache, and you're like, "No, I'm just gonna yell it." You can
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of hear like a little bit of frustration from Echo as she's like, "Yeah, you're actually yelling like to me telepathically now." A little bit of like the teacher's attitude, like you don't have to yell. We're face to face. So at least for now, you guys have the recognition that this was a one-way street. You guys can recognize that there's basically an hour that each of those things kind of happen for. Let me get an intelligence from the two of you. Um, Taryn, at very least, depending on how long you all spend here, I'd say at very least Taryn has the idea to wonder if this door is going to stay open for an hour. It's something to kind of keep in mind depending on how long you all are in this area.
So looking around at these vines and ferns and everything, does anything, I mean, Jarek's no botanist, but do they look to his eye similar to natural Chulchin uh flora from what he can tell? Is there anything
Uh,
different?
I I think that's a good time just to do a nature check. You could do survival, but again, that's one of those things like usually the check I tell you is like the more pertinent to what you're thinking. Survival, if you're using your skills, it just might give you different responses.
I think nature makes more sense given what he's kind of looking at.
Yeah. So looking over these vines, you get a pretty solid recognition that like most of these seem to be pretty similar things as what you've seen growing here in Omu, which are pretty similar things to what you've seen growing in Chalt. I don't think there would be any reason for you to think of them as weird or unnatural to this place. Other than sort of a recognition, like there it is moss and vines. Um, I'm not sure that you necessarily can recognize that those are things that don't really need light so much as you're still kind of like wondering like why don't these vines need light? But yeah, it's kind of one of those. I think that's probably the one thing that might and might not be kind of a substantial part of it. But yeah, moss and vines, they seem pretty kind of normal for the moistures of chalk. That just like every surface starts to grow, like everything is alive.
Gotcha. And so the moss, is it like carpeting the walls and the floor and the ceiling? Is it like kind of all over?
Yeah, yeah. This whole like hallway, is like a verdant little like walk through like an old southern like tree hallway. I assume you've kind of seen some of those like quintessential photos. Um, I feel like it's very big in like Europe to have those little tree corridors in some of like the royal gardens and whatnot. Um, I can't think of what like the archways that kind of come from it, but it's definitely, I feel like it would be reminiscent of maybe like a garden of like a trader like or a merchant back in Baldur's Gate kind of thing, that you would like see this like moment of like this green hallway and it's like, oh, that's beautiful, and you see like the flicks of the skull like staring at you down this hallway, and you're like, everything about this place has tried to kill me, and there's a beautiful green hallway in front of me.
Yeah, Jarek's definitely eyeing. He's eyeing those vines like they're gonna reach out and like wrap around him at any moment. But he's yeah, so he's got Zeros kind of carrying the torch. He's gonna have his weapons out now that he's back on solid ground, and he's going to kind of look at Taryn almost like and then kind of jerk his head like almost like shall we forward.
Yeah, but maybe we should take this carefully, because I mean, so far we've had one false entrance with a trap. We had a real entrance that when we got in was trapped. So and with that, Taryn is gonna turn his rings into the pole. Maybe we should take it slow and steady here, just in case. I'm not trusting this place at all.
And that last one, whoever built this place seems to like mind games. I I wonder if you hadn't pulled the lever the first time, would that trap still have fallen away?
Yeah, no idea, but I feel like it's certainly not the last trap we're gonna step into in this place.
Well, I'll follow your lead. I'll follow behind you then.
So you
Yeah.
said you're turning your rings into the, I think I called it an 8-foot staff, but it's a 10-foot staff.
Yeah, it's the 10-foot pole.
Gotcha. So as you start to feel the spaces in front of you, I assume that's kind of the idea. You're trying to like put pressure on these stones and try to manipulate them to see if there's anything in like the floor ahead of you.
Yeah, just to make sure.
Gotcha. So pretty much like inches in front of where Justin is stepping, you are going to push down the pole and feel like a little bit of resistance where nothing happens. Maybe like 20% of your strength or like 10% of your body weight, depending on how you're manipulating weight into this pressure point, you're going to feel as the stone just shifts like a little like centimeter or so. Roll an intelligence check for me here. So at about 50 or so pounds, these spaces in front of you seem to be weighted, or at very least you kind of feel it out. This like stone, that it's about like a 5 by 5 area basically. It is mechanically the square directly in front of Justin is weighted, and by the time you lean this weight into this point, you're going to hear, and coming right to left, two darts are going to kind of puff out of the lichen like to the side, and they're just going to like sink into, like one will click into the wall kind of going beyond the lichen, hitting the stone, falling to the ground. Another sticks into the actual vines, but pushing down on that little space, that little bit of stone, caused a dart to fly out of the western wall. And as you kind of like feel the space in front of yours, it's much more sturdy, and you kind of gain a sense like, okay, directly in front of Taryn is safe. in front of Justin is dangerous. And then you can feel out the next spaces, and you guys can essentially making your way a little bit steadier through this place, soon realizing kind of some of these places. You can see that there are dart holes along all of the actual walls of this place. And you'll notice as you move further and further down that one pressure plate shoots multiple darts, because there are more darts than you will find pressure plates for these things. And you'll see some of the actual darts from like previous shots. But effectively, you guys will come to recognize that there is one unsafe spot there. The next unsafe spot ends up being like underneath the vines that are kind of growing. Like if you put a little bit of pressure, you'll find that one, and then you kind of have to cross. There's another space that is unsafe, kind of just beyond that. But as you kind of feel your way down this hall, you guys can kind of slowly make this progress before you see that there's a little T in the halls here, and you kind of see that this little skull that's been catching little bits of your light is this massive green demon skull. And just like all of the skulls that decorated the doorway, this one skull is much larger than the giant's face, and the actual mouth that is opened up in this loud scream with all of its muscles tensed into the scream. Its mouth is just this gaping black hole, about the size of a human.
Do the number of darts on the ground suggest that these dart traps also reset? Or does it seem like are there do we see darts like around before we trigger any of them?
I think it would be more closer to like the first pressure plate, maybe feeling out the actual weight of it, especially once he is not surprised by putting weight onto it. I think that Terran could figure out that, yeah, like the second time he pushes on that first pressure plate, it's going to shoot darts again.
Okay. And um so I'm thinking, so like Eldritch Blast, that's force damage, right? So Zeros is almost thinking like as a way to mark these in case we have to get back later. He wants to essentially try and use an Eldritch Blast to kind of clear away some of the vegetation on them, so that like essentially the clearer um, steps are the ones that we know are dangerous. Kind of as we
You can roll an investigation for me. If this is Zeros who's thinking it, you can just roll a wisdom. Yeah. So, are you all getting to the opposite side of this hall as Zeros goes to do that?
Yeah, Taryn and Quinn would at least be going towards the opposite end.
yeah, I think Jarek would have made his way down, kind of fall. He's falling closely behind Taryn, so and I think Zeros would have kind of he might have thought of this like as he was getting maybe not all the way down there, but
Gotcha. But
gets
you're
to
going
around
to.
this general area. Yeah.
All right. So while he's still like in that area, you're thinking he's gonna like turn around and try to strike out at that first one.
Yeah, the first one that Taryn had identified. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go. You can do just a classic spell attack at that, giving you neither advantage nor disadvantage for trying to hit it, but just kind of like reaching back towards it. Yeah, you can blast out at it. Let me have you make a dexterity saving throw with Zeros. When you strike out at that, one of these puffs is going to come from near you in the wall, and one of these darts is going to fly out and hit Zeros. I think on this one, it's just going to be a Constitution save for him. Yeah, I guess the first save is for half damage. So it does. It seems stupid for one piercing damage. Do Yeah, I think 2 more con saves. Damn, motherfucker wants to live. Yeah, just kind of gets like these darts, or this dart just kind of flies out from the side, and he's almost able to move himself out of the way. And the dart just kind of like is just pricked enough through his. He's a warlock, so leather armor, like just kind of enough through his leather that like he draws away a little bit of blood, but basically the dart like is not like cut through his flesh. Theoretically, he is not poisoned by it. He should be fine. Just a little flesh wound, but he does have the recognition, like at least move away from where the darts are coming from. But you can mark that one.
Do you want me to actually mark it on the map or not?
As far as things go, when you guys are talking about stuff like that, I think you should have a drawing of a map and try to mark out what you're actually thinking. Because regardless of how things play off, it's kind of going to be his ability to remind me is reminding you guys that you guys have kind of spotted these out before. Well, part of what I mean though is like you actually drawing your own map. I never guarantee I'm not going to delete these things as we kind of like move through and have different maps.
Oops, sorry.
I just mean like kind of as your own note taking. That's definitely one of those things that I feel like is kind of a gray area in modern dungeons, is taking notes of how you guys progress through these dungeons, even if it means drawing stupid little diagrams. Those little pictures are huge when you go to like revisit a place. If you start to come at me with those pictures, it means a lot to like your ability to re-navigate places. I've shown DMs like pictures of my little drawings like right out of a notebook. It says a lot for if your character is actively like taking notes kind of thing. And I feel like at very least the idea that you've got Zeros like trying to mark them off, on some level he would be trying to also mark himself to remember like this cleaned off area. Don't step there.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I know I have some graph paper somewhere. I might have to break that out. I have to find it. Yeah. So it seemed like, yeah. So this first one kind of was in front of Jarek, and then did it seem to be? You said the one that was kind of right where this first where these first bigger vines seemed to be. I think that was another one. So he would.
Oh wait, did
kind
I
of-
not draw those on the level you guys could see? Oh yeah, I already had X's on the board. I drew them on the wrong layer.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, my bad. That's a total psych out. That is one of those things though, again, like I guarantee nothing on like how long I leave details like that on maps, let alone that you'll ever see this map like in the same state again. That's part of why I think the more stuff that's actually in your physical notes, it benefits you if you ever do revisit those areas.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I have. Uh,
Does he continue like trying to blast the other two?
Once he this time kind of backs farther away, so like beyond the where they found the last one, then he will, yes, try to mark the other two the same way.
So, assuming on some level that you guys actually clear all the way out of that hallway, with the recognition that he's still potentially setting off these traps, you can definitely blast the other two of those stones. Again, you don't have to like mark them on this map. I would try to keep that shape basically marked in your map. I would suggest drawing at least a little bit of that so you know like the pit floor, that area, and try to kind of get that general shape that's like safe to walk on, or try to like get a frame of reference for yourself, whatever it kind of works for your notes. There's a lot of different ways to kind of say like that part of the hall is safe, um, but like I would try to draw something on that level where you have a reminder about that and some reference to like how those are shaped, and that'll be the type of thing that if you guys come back here, you would have the clue. But otherwise, you are at the end of this hall. You see hall leading off to the east into darkness, hall leading off to the west into darkness, and this demon head that is like in this scream of pain looking down the hall that you've come down. You guys are now like moved on the sides of.
Left to right, Taryn.
I'll just go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Left. Let's go left.
Gotcha. So starting to move down towards Jarek's side.
Yep.
Jarek is waiting for him so he can use the pole again, so he's not going to go forward. He's going to keep again behind Taryn.
Gotcha. So, kind of slowly feeling your way down this route, using the light as you guys have, you'll come across an area where there's a little, like, sewage grate that you can kind of hear water flowing beneath, maybe about 20 or 30 feet below this little grate in the sewer. And you kind of hear that little bit of water. This area is still grown over with the same kind of lichen and vines kind of growing around, where you see very little stone, but you're seeing more stone in this area than you saw in that like initial entry hallway. And while you're kind of feeling out the different areas, you don't seem to feel any other pressure plates before you start to come in view of a stained glass window that is kind of just off right outside of the light while you guys are over top of that grate. Stained glass window is probably like about 6 feet wide, about 10 feet tall, with kind of like an arch to it. And it's like just catching the light while you guys are getting to that grate kind of situation.
Yeah, Taryn's gonna try to look down the grate, see if he can see anything.
As far as the lighting situation goes, I don't think you have a solid way to really look down there. Um, you could probably displace the grate with enough effort to like at least know that you guys could lift the grate out of the way, and investigate closer down there. It's not like sealed or anything. It's kind of just one of those things where like it's like 60 or 80 pounds. Enough to know that you can move it, but enough to know that maybe you don't want to move it. Would Taryn like to move it?
I'll probably wait a little bit. The grate, how big are the openings like between the bars? Could you might like maybe light a torch and drop it down?
Oh, I definitely think you could drop a torch through. I feel like those are maybe like a brand new torch would be difficult because of the fibers. But I'd say they're at least like 2x2 squares. Um, let's say you guys drop the torch you've been burning and you have a pretty solid sense that it would fit through. You could probably reach it through top down to like test it where you have the handle like pointing up. And it'll like start to like lose the qualities of a torch. It'll start to want to go out. But it's in no danger and you can kind of test it and it would fit through. A brand new torch though, I'm sticking with would not. That's my personal OCD.
Yeah, then I'm gonna ask Sarah, so he's still carrying the torch, if I remember right, to I can borrow it and try to drop it down through the grate just to see
So
what's down there.
maybe just reach in first in case I don't know. There's water or something. If you drop it, just smothers the torch.
Oh,
You don't
smart idea.
drop it immediately.
Yeah, I think
Zero's
good
still
idea.
in hand of the torch.
Yeah, and then Terry will just shove it in a bit as far as he can reach down, basically, to see what he sees.
You reach down and it's just kind of open area. I guess maybe if you reach towards the wall, you could feel that there's like basically a stone like wall that seems to be circular, kind of leading down.
All right, then. And hopefully we don't mind that we lose the torch. He's gonna drop the torch. See how far down it goes. If we can see.
Roll a perception check for me. Jarek, you can go for this as well, because you've already showed signs of caring about the torch. Like, no, that was my favorite torch. Solid. You care enough to not really care. Yeah, so you're gonna drop the torch down. You'll kind of see as it falls through, like again, it's a little kind of cylinder chute. Before maybe a few. No, this is all gonna be in the span of like a second, basically. Maybe about a third of the way, it's going to kind of like open up where you see the glow kind of extend beyond the hole that you were looking in. So now everything's through this like black hole. And you hear like probably a little like splash and a sizzle. Um, looking at about half of its drop was inside of the cylinder in the stonework, and then half of it was kind of in a little more open space before it fell into and was snuffed out. But by water.
All right, and then with that, Terry's gonna pull out torch from his backpack and I didn't give back to Sarah's. But yeah, sorry about the torch. It's gone now.
Yes, I figured, but Zeros will take the torch back.
I think you would have easily gone over some rope as well while you were looking for that torch.
Sorry, I don't think I got that. What do you mean?
Oh, you could have checked the depth like before the water by dropping the rope down and just bringing that back up, and or then dangled the torch in with the rope.
Well, that is one way to do it. It's a way not to lose the torch.
So you guys have this kind of sewer grate below you. You have the kind of sparkle of the lights before you, and behind you, you still have that kind of like demon's head and the hall that is behind it now. Moving on towards the wall, still checking the flooring.
Yeah, Terran's gonna keep moving forward towards the left side, so to say. Still checking for any traps he can find.
So you can still keep like feeling out the flooring as you get closer and closer to this like large wall. You're going to see as it seems to be like sparkling with light that's coming through from what appears to be nowhere, because you're looking through this glass and you just see the color. It's not until you put like a light source a little bit more properly in front of the glass before you'll start to actually see something beyond it. So there's definitely like a weird trick to the eye where you can look for the light source that's like scattering some of its light in towards you, but there isn't one. And you can kind of just see this seems to be some sort of magical window, and you kind of look through it, and eventually you would see that inside there is a stone sarcophagus kind of on this little circular plinth. And yeah, I think that's most of what you'll see light-wise.
Terran's gonna, yes, Safe's gonna look around like the window, see if there's any. Well, basically, search it out, see if there's any hidden things there, or feel it out, just in case of more traps, I guess, or hidden levers or whatever.
Roll a perception check. Think looking over this thing, you're not going to see any signs of it being trapped at all. You don't see any signs that make you think that the window would open either. This just seems to be like a dead end with this window looking somewhere.
And is the window like, are there like, is it kind of like bars between the glass, or is it like a solid, like, seems just to be a glass
Yeah, I
window?
feel like it's meant to be stained glass. It's a crystal window, but as far as I think anything would kind of go, this is um
I mean, I guess the idea I'm trying to get, like, if we tried to like smash the window, like, does it look like something could be climbed through, or is there like kind of bars bracing it that would make that difficult?
oh the bars and like the brazing that they use to make stained glass windows are very small. Anything that would hold the window together to break it, you would have to break out of the way. So yes and no. I don't think there's any reason to assume that you can't break through it because it has like metal in there. But it's definitely not the type of thing where it's like prison bars. These are just thin little bits of metal that are basically between the like crystals of glass.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, Derek's not thinking of breaking it now, but he just to kind of look it over a bit. Unless Taryn has any other thoughts, Derek would suggest maybe we try right.
Yeah, maybe. And Terran's just gonna, like, yes, for his own curiosity, he's gonna lightly tap on the stained glass, basically. See, just to feel it out, see if it, like, does it seem sturdier than normal glass, or is it just stained glass? Not sure like how you would test it, but probably not going to see
So
it against. It seems.
I think, like, as a thief goes, maybe you would have reasons to understand, like, glass versus glass, some of the making qualities. I think one thing that maybe would make it a little sturdier but wouldn't necessarily surprise you is, again, the fact that it's basically braced by these little bars of actual metal. I think one thing that maybe you could know about glass is kind of the idea, like, when people make actual glass windows in, like, ancient times, it's a very different thing than glass we know now. But, like, the actual process didn't always make terribly sturdy glass, but that's part of where, like, the shards that make up, like, almost a collage kind of picture. Collage is the wrong word. But, like, when you're forming it with a lot of smaller different things, it wouldn't be surprising for those pieces to be, like, almost already kind of like broken pieces of glass. um I think what I'm getting at is they would be like the ones that have already, like, sturdily resisted breaking kind of thing, almost like they're being recycled. But it's like you already have the glass. It's meant to, like, shine light through. Um, but I think overall the idea is, like, it's just glass from Terran's point of view.
Yeah, with that, I'm just gonna start. Uh, if nothing else, if there's a dead end on the other side too, I think this glass is smashable at least. We might get through that way.
Yeah, so let's see what's on the other side and then figure out what to do.
All right. Well, let's check.
Gotcha. So you're looking to start to walk down the other way of the T and start to head to the right side of the screen, feeling out the floors, seeing the same kind of vines and the same kind of lichen. Uh, by now, you might notice that the now, like, left side of this hall has a little bit less lichen than the rest. And you may notice that, like, this side of the hall has a little bit less lichen than the left side. And as you guys kind of slowly make your way down, this, like, view into darkness is going to continue as this hall continues on for 30 feet, 40 feet, and you start to see as it opens up and again kind of puts that, like, square stone framing, as you kind of see, like, the view opens up into blackness in front of you. And as you guys get closer and closer, you're going to see that you are on a balcony with a path that leads to the left of you, and a path that leads to the right of you. You can see probably just enough to see that to the left there's a path to the north and what looks like stairs, or at least a ramp that leads downward. As well as to your right, the path seems to kind of turn, so it's heading, like, parallel with where you are facing, on this same level. Um, and inside of the dim light, you could probably see that there's still the same balcony, at least straight ahead of you inside of this room. My bad. So your view gets you to, like, the edge of the balcony, where you've, like, checked the actual tiles. Um, I'll have you in darkness here as I start to actually review this area. And say, as in the picture, if you guys kind of, like, hang over the balcony a little bit, you could see the stairs below as well. Same thing with those, though. It's probably more in the dim light that you can actually see that far.
Which way, Taryn?
don't know, but let's go. Let's go south. Get a good feeling about it. And Terran will go with the same procedure, just for safety measure, pushing the tiles as he moves along.
So yeah, as you go down and start to curve around this corner, checking this area, you find this kind of section of the balcony is all going to be pretty sturdy. You start to see as the balcony starts to appear off to the east of you ahead, and eventually kind of get your light across there. By the time you start to get close to the corner, you'll start to see the first signs that there is kind of like an opening to the east of this room. And you can kind of check your way to the point where you will see that you have a path ahead or a path to the right of you.
And if we were to look over looking over the side of the balcony, about how far is the drop from the balcony to like this level before the stones or stairs?
So, like reaching out with the torch, if you were like reaching over um like armpit over the balcony, you probably get the like slightest bit of dim light that actually comes to the next level. If you were to lay down on the ground and reach like from the floor, you could get light a little bit more properly on the floor below you, but effectively that area with like the stair, even one level below you guys with the stair, that's already kind of staring into the abyss of darkness. Most of that pit is just straight black abyss. It just looks like it goes forever. It's only just kind of catching like the dimness of light reflecting off of, oddly smooth sections of stone kind of thing of the level immediately below you.
Gotcha. Okay. Don't just go hop in the balcony.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you guys see, like, there's a reason, like, humans are afraid of the dark. Like, it is a very primal thing to recognize that if you can't see something, don't ever assume that it ends. Like, looking down like that.
Right.
So I
You
kind of have
said
you assume to have at least moved up to, like, there, basically, right now.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if you guys actually like continue to move on and check that area, you can see that that hall to your right kind of continues on for 30 or so feet, like to the edge of the actual light. Um, and then to the north of you, you would be able to see that this balcony continues on. It turns about like 20 or so feet to the left, and then the balcony is going to end. If you explored a little bit closer, you could basically see that there's a hall that expands up to the north along that path, or you can go down this hall that is expanding off to your right that kind of goes into darkness.
Jarek would suggest we do a full circuit of this balcony before we move to maybe explore the passage heading off to our right.
Gotcha. So
Yeah.
continue to the north.
Yep, if
Yep.
Taryn's down for that.
Yeah, Terran is down for that.
So continuing to like put pressure onto these little pieces of stone and slowly make your way, checking things out. You've spent a little bit of extra time doing this. It's probably going to get a little bit too normal at this point where you're like vaguely checking these stones to see. still can have your staff out and in hand doing it, but you haven't come across any other pressure plates since you basically walked through that entryway tunnel.
Yeah, I think by that point, Tam would go like, probably. I mean, even if he still has the pot, he's basically just lazily like pushing it against Talon. Yeah, no, nothing happens.
Can't all be trapped, can it?
Apparently not.
If I can, let me have you roll perception checks. So, as Taryn kind of like is moving across and checking these stones and kind of gets like right around where we've got Quinn right now. As Taryn's kind of checking that area, Justin's just still kind of like keeping situational awareness, keeping eyes on like behind you and whatnot, like checking your six. And you're going to kind of like look around behind at Quinn and at Zeros before you see like a flash down on the level below you. And as you kind of like recognize this flash as like a little bit of like eye shine, like light coming across the smooth lens of somebody's eyes, you're just going to see kind of like a pale white visage, and it's gone in that flash before like you could ask Taryn to like come back with the. Well, wait, Zeros has the torch. You could ask Zeros to kind of like wave the torch down there again, giving you a second look or a better look, and doesn't appear to be anything. So that would have been like kind of like almost down and below Zeros, kind of like in this area-ish.
Gotcha. So Jarek could probably, yeah, he's not sure he actually saw anything once because it's kind of gone so quick, but he might stop and just try and listen um afterwards just to see if he like hears anything, I guess. But if that's part of the perception, then that makes
Do you
sense
have
too.
the others stop? Do you like tell everybody to stop, or are you just trying to stop?
I think he would like hold up a hand, but I'm not sure if they would notice because Taryn's probably more focused on like the tapping and stuff. Um, so he'd kind of be like, yeah, hold up a hand, maybe like do like a um afterwards, and then try and listen.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say Taryn is most definitely not gonna notice that, being more focused on the front, but Quinn would notice at least and stop.
Well, you all are on edge regardless as you're moving. So I don't think it's absurd for Jarek to like hold a hand up as he puts a hand on your shoulder, kind of thing. That is kind of a silent like hold sign. You can roll another investigation here. So you're kind of like trying to separate some of the sounds that you heard while everybody was moving from the sounds that are just kind of like a natural part of this place. You can hear, like, there's still a lot of noises of this place, despite me not necessarily describing kind of like the clicks of insects and like things like that, that there's like that constant background noise of the jungle. It's not like extremely silent in this place, while it's also not loud. But as you kind of get everybody to like quiet down for a moment, you do pick up the rhythm of what for just a moment of the actual listening you can make out as footsteps. You didn't imagine this, and if you are, you're hallucinating from multiple faculties. Like that's both auditory and visual hallucinations right now.
Yeah, so Jarek will kind of to the others. So like whisper like, "We're not alone," and kind of he'll point down towards where he thought he saw the thing.
By the time everybody else goes to look and everybody else would go to listen, though, there's nothing left to see or hear.
He's like, "Don't know what it was, but something definitely." I I saw it. I'm going to assume it saw us.
Yeah, whatever it was, it's gone by now at least. But well, look out at least, or be careful, just in case whatever it is comes back.
The Jarek will kind of nod for Taryn to continue on with their loop.
All right, and then Terran will continue.
And Jarek's kind of paying more attention now, trying to like keep an eye out more down below almost. Um, or I might have Zeros kind of stay close to him with the torch.
So let me get another round of perception checks from the two of you here. Alrighty. So, while you're looking around, Jarek, and trying to keep an eye over things, you're keeping a good like view over everything, trying to actually watch for glints of light. Nothing's going to immediately become apparent here. But Taryn, while you're kind of like losing effort into actually how hard you're testing for these pressure plates, is right when you are going to feel a pressure plate, because as you kind of reach into this room ahead of you, from where like the balcony turns onto like inside of the stone again, you're going to push down, and as your like light little soft touch doesn't move anything, you go for your next push and you just lean into a little bit more, and you're going to feel once again as the pressure plate like oscillates, and with that one you'll be able to figure out that this whole floor ahead of you is a pressure plate. 5 feet in front of you, 10 feet in front of you, five. Yeah, it's just the one like small little corridor. But you are also going to start to hear, from the moment you touch it, a. You guys have that kind of like tiny section as um, damn, your balcony right now. So as you're pushing onto this, Zeros is still like behind you with the actual torch. You'll start to see like further and further down this hall before you start to see that the floor, also by now, like past the staircase, most of the lichen kind of like would have been less and less visible in the staircase. By the time you get to this hallway, there is no more greenery inside of this hallway. This hallway is not going to be stone colored though. As you see further and further down, there is more and more crimson stone before, once you get like full light down this little hall, you are going to see the spinning blades of a fan that seems to be at the opposite end of this hall, and it is blowing air away from it towards you.
Jarek is going to try to step back. You know, um, let me put him on the. Yeah, essentially, he's trying to move back away from the. I think Taryn was the one pressing on the things here, so
Yeah, so I think part of my biggest question is definitely like, once you activate it, Taryn, what are you thinking once you start to recognize that that floor before you was a pressure plate?
Oh, I'm gonna. Like it's the entire floor in front of me, not where I'm standing at least. But I'm gonna stop putting pressure on the floor. But this is hard. Trying to think, and it's shooting wind towards us, basically. Was that what it was doing? Or did I misunderstand? Is it
Oh
sucking
no,
it?
no, my bad. This is sucking air towards it. The blood just seems like it would be blowing. But yeah, I feel like that's just spun. This is sucking air towards it. With the amount of time that you turned it on, you're just going to feel like a small wind. You're going to hear most of the hum kind of come to a cease. But even with the little bit of having touched the pressure plates, this thing is still freely spinning. But right now, it just feels like kind of like a soft breeze drawing air in and towards it. Um, but yeah, I think over like the next minute, like, just because you took a moment to think, you're going to slowly start to recognize that this thing is slowing back down, that it started to turn on with that pressure plate.
So Jarek is going to turn to Zeros, and I think you can. You just think we can disable it from here. Gonna have Zeros. He's gonna kind of like look to Taryn to see if Taryn agrees with the idea, but essentially he wants to see maybe Zeros can essentially destroy the fan from here, that without tripping the trigger, the pressure plates. Like once it's if it like um once it slows, that it doesn't seem to be like much of an immediate threat.
Well, it's worth a try at least.
What was Zeros thinking though? You said Zeros was thinking about like trying to disable it.
Yeah, essentially, Jarek suggests to Zeros that maybe he can like essentially move to where Terran is, not without stepping on the pressure plate, essentially trying to blast this fan to disable it so that it can't like spin, essentially trying to knock out like some of the blades.
Gotcha. Yeah, you can make when does a warlock get their third Eldritch Blast? I feel like he's still at 2 Eldritch Blasts, though. You can make 2 Eldritch Blast attacks at it.
Yeah, I feel like it would have to be like at least 11th level for third.
Yeah, that sounds right. I was thinking teens, but I don't know why 8 came to mind. Oh, it's because cantrips, I think, are 3, or are 5 and 8. I might be wrong. It might be 5 and 10. Yeah, so like as it's kind of what I feel like is it's kind of like slowing down, near coming to a stop, you try to blast at it. And I think just with each one, it's just gonna kind of like fly past the actual blades a little bit off center. You just seem to fail to hit it there. No way to tell whether you can hit it, but it appears you cannot right now.
And then like kind of looking, just like looking out on the floor, um where the blood is, do we see any signs of like what the blood might have belonged to, like any chunks of rotting flesh or anything like that that suggests there's been any sort of recent
Roll a
who
perception.
recently succumbed to this?
Yeah, everything kind of coming to a stop, like the fans basically at like a full standstill now. It's back to like that weird kind of quiet where you still hear insects and things around, little bits of drips from like the stone and whatnot. Looking in, like with the little bit of light that you guys have, I think you can probably see 3/4 of the way in pretty solid light before you're just looking for shadows. You don't see any signs of anything. It looks like a stone corridor as it was designed, and it's almost as if those were just blood red rocks, or it's like blood red marble in that area.
Okay, okay.
I mean, it looks like blood. Like when you guys walk up to that, it's clearly like blood in the corridor. But like what I mean is like there's nothing to show you. There's not chunks of flesh. There's not bones. This is an empty hallway that is like coated in blood.
Oh, right, right. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So Zeros is not going to. He tries a couple times, but kind of look back to the other, shake his head, and
How many
then
couple times? Like you just throw those two, or are you throwing two more?
maybe he tried one more time, almost kind of like
Roll
fake
two
off,
more.
like.
So the second time, like just in like a little fit of anger, you kind of still just sling them down this hallway. And the first of them is going to ping into this thing, and you're going to see not like signs of damage, but you hear the sound of this force blasting into metal. Um, he hit it at least this time.
He said no, doesn't like any no visible damage from the hit, right?
I mean, you guys are still really far away, and you're looking into what is essentially dim light to try to figure out what kind of damage he did from this space. There's little more that you can understand than that he hit it.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
It's
Yeah,
kind of the weird part of this hallway is to really understand what condition that fan is in, or to understand what does what here. You're walking into the activation switch because it's at least everything that Taryn can reach in front of him.
yeah. About that, I just got a thought. The walls, are they like smooth walls, or are they like there's places where you could maybe, for example, climb?
I mean, technically, with second story work, I'm pretty sure you can climb anywhere that is not explicitly too smooth to climb. So I would say 100% you could climb.
Yeah, then yeah, it's gonna see. Maybe I could see if I could climb in. Seems like the floor is the trapped part, so maybe I could climb in and see if there's a way to deactivate it up close without touching the floor.
Um, my apologies. So you're just gonna kind of like shimmy up on the walls to kind of climb over towards the fan?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so like probably fully extend yourself. You could kind of like plank across the hall, like pulling onto like the small little things like on the walls and kind of crimping into the little bits of like lack of like masonry in some of the stones. You could find your way like in a little more like traditional kind of like climbing across it. But you can basically climb your way across this little area. Finding your way up to the fan, you can see that there's like a larger section around this fan where it kind of like spins into the wall. But I think you could easily climb through the actual fan right now while it is stopped. I think with your light, you could see that the hall at least extends as far as your light kind of goes from your rings.
Yeah, I'm not gonna climb through it yet. I'm gonna try to take a look at the fan, see if there's basically inspect it to see if there's how it works, if there's any way to.
Roll an investigation. So if we've got like 4 blades on this thing, it's got some pretty large like cracks between them, but otherwise comes pretty close to the actual like edges all around. There's certainly plenty of spaces where you could try to jam like pythons or some such into the actual like stone between the blade to try to make it movable.
Yeah, with that then I'm gonna try to jam some pythons in to, well, disrupt it when it starts, see if I can make it immovable.
Gotcha. So like 4 blades, you could get like. Do you want to do just like a python, doing like 1 per blade? You could probably get 2 pretty easily. Do you think you want to do 3? How many pythons do you want to invest in stopping this propeller that is covered in blood?
Let's see, I have 8 total, so let's see, I'm gonna go with, yes, because Kenny, let's go with 6 pythons basically. 2 on 3
Gotcha.
blades basically.
Yeah, you're okay. You're gonna leave 1 blade untouched and then double up on like the 3 easiest ones. So yeah, that would probably put you at like the 2 lowest, or rather the 3 lowest blades. You'll stop her up,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna climb through.
No, I'm thinking I'm gonna climb back just for safeties. And then I'm gonna try to start it basically from where Jarek is standing now.
Gotcha. You're gonna like try to start it with your staff again.
Yeah, just for safeties because I don't want to climb through it myself, and if it then starts with me on the other side.
Gotcha.
Basically when the
So
other.
as you start to put pressure on the floor, after you put about like 30 or so pounds of pressure onto the floor, you're gonna start to hear as like there's 6 metallic sounds as these kind of like accelerate a little bit and just get like slung against the wall. Some of them just kind of fall, but probably 3 or 4 are going to be flung with force as this thing starts to accelerate, and you start to feel that wind starts to pick up. You can let go pretty quickly there. It's going to spin for another minute before it slowly comes to rest again and is still.
Yeah, that didn't work out. I think we should maybe check on that other side hall. I don't really have an idea to get through this with all of us.
How many pittons do you have left? Need to try and get those back.
I have 2 left, but yeah, I could. Yeah, I'll try to climb in, see if I can rescue some of the pittons at least.
Do you think you would?
Yeah, I mean, after it slowed down, I'm gonna try to go in and
Gotcha.
see if I
Wait for
can.
it to stop again. Roll a
Yeah.
d100 for me. 80% of 6. I feel like that's 5 back. You can have 5 back. One of them got destroyed. You can see like the metal of the blade seems to have kind of just like rent this. Like it's just a spike of metal, so it's not like it's like supremely destroyed. But it's almost like you would have 2 pythons that are like smaller ones. Because effectively all a python is like a big chunk of metal that you hammer into the rock. And it usually has a loop that you can effectively put your rope through to secure yourself. But yeah, one of them kind of like doesn't have the actual loop, but it's still 2 spikes.
Yeah, with that, I'm climbing back.
Do you see anything on the other side, Aaron?
No, not
You
really.
could toss him the torch, but he's kind of like clinged up against the wall, like moving with his rings as light right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jarek would offer him the torch if see if he can get a better look
Yeah, I
from
mean,
the
I,
other.
I could do that.
Would
See,
you look from in front of the fan, or would you reach your arm through to try to like extend the light as far as possible?
seeing as it's only been activated by stepping on the floor, I'm gonna take a chance and reach through the plates, basically, get myself a bit more light.
Gotcha. So as you like start to come up to it with the actual torch, you'll at least see a little bit of this area like opens into, again, it'll be a pretty dark room at first, just like that dark abyss beyond the rectangle that you can see. And then as you kind of see, you'll also notice that the floor is not there. And by the time you actually reach through with your arm, you'll see that this hall leads at least to a pit that looks probably 15 or so feet wide. It's kind of right around that area where you are losing the actual light you're shining. But you can see what looks like the the reflections, the highlights of two chests you would be able to see well. The third would be much harder to put out, but it is between the other two, and still kind of draws enough of your attention. But you're kind of peeking into this room where right about where the light is giving out is where you can see kind of the corner of and the side of these chests. And you can kind of make out one of them seems to be silver, one of them seems to be kind of like a crimson red brown, and the other one seems to be just a dark, solid, smooth black. Technically, you cannot see into the pit, but there's no way to kind of hide from you that there's a sarcophagus in your view, meta wise.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna climb back and relay about the chess.
Well, I'll leave it to you, Taryn, whether you think it's worth trying to get to those. They seems like they're being this fan is actually protecting them. Perhaps. Well, I don't know. I'll leave it to you. You're the only one who can climb through.
Yeah,
Unless we
the
figure out
chess.
some other way to disable that fan.
Um, we could look around a bit some more. We have that other passage. See if we can find wherever that leads.
Jarek will nod and he'll start heading back the way they had come. Back around, I guess, to the where the that other passageway branches off.
Gotcha. So let's take a break before we kind of head back towards that. We'll take 15, come back on the hour.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Yeah, hello, I'm back.
Hey, I'm back too.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah, part of me thinks so. Given what we've seen, like those chests are going to be like just another like mindfuck trap. But
I
if we could
mean,
figure out a way to get like everybody back there, but I don't want to leave you on your own to deal with whatever that is.
yeah, no, I was kind of feeling the same with Taryn. Like, I mean, he is curious about what's back there, but he isn't so curious that he would risk his life being there by himself in a place that is very obviously trying to kill us all. But we'll see. Maybe we find a way around or another way to deactivate the fan or whatever.
Assuming that's both of you are back, and that
Yep.
Chris is not talking to himself.
I mean, I could be talking to myself. I've been known to do that.
Like role playing Quinn, and Taryn.
Nah, just the Tracy bubbling up from work, talking to myself all the time.
Yeah, jury's still out, but I talk to myself all the time, and most people don't think I'm that crazy.
Well, I work in New York City, so we see a lot of that.
Exhibit A, the subway.
Oh, I never take the subway if I can help it, especially now. I mean, I know like statistically, like it's not as much worse as like the news stories say, but it's like, I mean, I work close enough to Penn Station that it's not super far of a walk, so I just walk, which presents its own issues because there are definitely plenty of crazy people on the streets too. But
Penn Station is an end of the line, but I feel like in the opposite direction, the end of the line tends to be where the really interesting things happen when there's not like a million people there.
yeah, way uptown and way downtown, yeah.
But if you ever get on a train at Penn Station and there's nobody in that car except for one person, you should probably just go to another car as soon as possible. Now, a lot of the
Yeah.
stories I get are from a buddy in Chicago who like tells stories about like the Chicago loop and whatnot. But yeah, that's definitely a city thing. But if you guys are good to go, I'm ready to step back in here.
Yep.
Yep, I'm good.
So as you move back down into that other hallway and start to cross now into this one that is the eastern way from the staircase. I'm going to bounce you to the staircase real quick. I just don't really have that hall built. But like as you're kind of looking down that right side, you'll see kind of the extent of your light just goes into darkness, and probably going down, assuming Taryn is back to checking the floors and is at least a little bit more on. You're going to get closer and closer to this area, finding no more pressure plates here. By the time, realistically, if you guys are side by side, Quinn and Taryn, by the time Quinn and Taryn are stepping forward as they're just kind of like inching forward, or by whatever level of you're trusting the stones beneath your feet, as you're kind of moving forward, you're going to notice by the time all of you are in this hallway, there's going to be two flames that ignite at the end of this hallway. And you are going to see what I did not fully reveal on this next map is that this door, this corridor, comes to an end at a large skull, approximately the size of the giant skull. It is a much smoother face, definitely not as kind of like bulbous as perhaps the giant skull, and is once again like mouth fully extended open in like the cries of pain, is screaming. And towards the end of this room, you see, like, as this like bone white skull is kind of, well, it's really going to be like yellow. As you step into the hall, its eyes are going to light up with flame, and you're going to see like the actual reflection. So again, this would be when you're back at the other side of the hallway. This is still like 40 or so feet away from you. You can see this skull. Once you would get closer with your torchlight, you would see the rest of that wall is all lined with skulls, in the same way as some of these other doors have been. If you walk down the corridor, continuing to check for pressure plates, you don't find any. By the time you get up to it, you would be able to see. I think I missed where it's kind of shown, but cracks of light coming through. So once you guys are within probably 10 or so feet of the skull, still not even really on this map, you would see that this mouth seems to open up into something beyond. And by the time you guys get closer and closer, you would at least know that there is a room beyond this mouth. Anybody interested in looking through?
Yeah, Terran would be kind of without sticking his head into the mouth, basically, but trying to look through it at least.
Kind of like torch right behind your head. You're trying to get like just an eye in enough of a position that the torch is kind of shining light in, and you can kind of see like a little bit of stonework. You can see that there is a sarcophagus in this room. Maybe there's a little bit of light kind of coming through from the roof over here, a little bit more light coming through like on the other side of the room. So you can see like a little bit of the size to this room. But every once in a while, the light from your torch is going to kind of flash across what seems to be some sort of, for now, I'm just going to say kind of like silverish blue shape that seems to be on a pedestal behind the sarcophagus. But the way you're kind of like just catching it in reflections of the light, it's really too difficult to tell without either like crawling yourself through. Terran would fit much easier than the rest. Pretty much everybody except for Quinn could not fit through with her armor. Everybody else could kind of like squeeze through this mouth and into that room.
Yeah, of course I'll relay back what I see to the others, and at the same time, while I'm still there by the mouth, I'm gonna try to investigate the skull and the mouth to see for any trap, like any mechanism, any kind of thing.
Are you more feeling for things, or are you more looking over things?
I would probably be more feeling, like trying to feel out like any mechanism or grooves or.
Gotcha. You can roll an investigation here. So going over the skull seems perhaps anatomical, and it fits anatomically that you would notice that the lower jaw seems to be hinged. This is not in a static position.
All right, I'll be kind of curious and try to. It's hinged. I'm gonna try to just see how heavy it is. Try to like lift the jaw to see if I can, how much force it would take to close it. I guess if I'm thinking right, because it's open and it's hinged. Yeah, just gonna try to just brute force, see how, if I can even make it move, basically.
I don't see any reason why you wouldn't be able to get it to move. It might be extremely heavy. Um, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't get it to like at least like show signs that it's movable. Are you trying to close it? Like, what are you aiming to do here?
No, it was more kind of a see how heavy it was.
Gotcha. That's part of why I wasn't necessarily trying to figure that out. Because you can move it and it's definitely heavy. I feel like that's probably a rather sufficient answer.
Or if you, I could try and smash it off if it's hinged. Break off the if you're worried about it snapping shut if you try to crawl through.
Yeah, I am kind of worried about that. So if you want to try to smash it, I'm all for that.
Yeah, so Jarek will kind of he'll step up, he'll kind of have Zeros maybe standing there with a torch to provide a little light, and he's trying to look for like thinking maybe the hinges might be a weak spot. He's going to with his sword essentially try to uh slash into the what looks like I guess bone and see if he can kind of snap off the lower portion of the jaw where it's hinged.
Gotcha. You can roll an attack roll. So, striking into it, hitting where you hope to. Solid, like, dull thud as you, like, scrape across this. Doesn't seem to have any effect against the stone. It still seems to be, or against the jaw. It still seems to be, like, unaffected.
I'm gonna try again. Another slash at it.
So I think with the second solid strike into this jaw at the hinge point, kind of like looking down into the stone, you can see like yeah, there's like a little bit of damage done to this.
So Jarek will kind of look to Taryn like it might take me a bit of time, but I think I might be able to eventually break this off. And Jarek would also kind of be reminding the others that we're also, I think, while we're in here, we're looking for keys that he had learned about at Orlunga. Five skeleton keys. What do you think, Taryn? Want me to keep going?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Might might try with the pittons. Maybe see if they can if they can fit. Try to hammer them in between like where it hinges so it can't move. Basically get it stuck. I mean, it didn't work on the fan, but hopefully it can work on the jaw.
Do you want to go with the pittance? Do you want to keep flashing at it?
Jarek's going to suggest let him have a little more time, see if he can do it. He's worried about it. The pittance might not be enough if the jaws snap shut, like with the fan.
Yeah. You might be right. All right. You can have a bit more time, see if you can manage it.
Yeah, so Jarek will step back up. He's going to keep slashing at it. Kind of 2 quick slashes.
So you'll get another solid connection with it. Um, Another couple of chips kind of like flake away from this. Next hit feels sturdy enough. Doesn't seem to show any effects other than kind of like 2 chips against the stone at this point. There's still a futility to kind of what you're seeing here. I feel like this is kind of putting a unmovable object in front of a infinite force. There's definitely a certain level of how much time is Jarek willing to continue to slash at this?
It feels like he's made some pretty solid strikes, but it doesn't seem to be having much effect here. Um, he might try a different tack and almost try to like kind of putting his sword away. He almost wants to try and like snap the like putting pressure on the on like the bottom half, try to like snap it down like with his like foot, almost like trying to kick it down to like snap off the bottom half rather than going at it with his blade.
So I think just trying to like put force into the jaw to kind of like break it open would be just kind of a further confirmation almost that like whatever this is, it's not simply just a skull, and that there's kind of more going on here. But it doesn't like budge to break away. Lifting it up kind of like showed sign that there was movement. Slashing at it showed signs that it's not like simply a skull and it is like damageable, but maybe that it's like kind of futile. And then pushing on it would give you like the least response of all of those kind of 3 ways to manipulate it.
Gotcha. And the other thing we could try is Taryn reaching something through it and seeing if the jaws close on it. Not a hand, obviously, but something.
Yeah, with that, Terran is gonna take its 10-foot pole and try to put it in as far as he can without having his hand inside of it
Can
too.
reach it in, pull it back out, nothing happened.
Okay, well, fuck it. Terran is gonna take 2 pittons on each side, basically on the hinges. With the it feels weird to say that, but yeah, and try to hammer it in like as hard as he can. Try to get him as far stuck as he can. So 4 pittons total, 2 on each side.
Gotcha. Take some time to get those placed in. Feel like you've got the jaw pretty well secured. A lot of friction force.
And with that, Terran is gonna try climbing through. Here goes nothing.
So from outside, as you watch Terran climb through, one of the eyes is going to snuff out. And there's now one fire burning in one of the eye sockets, the right side. Terran, as you climb in, You can see a little bit more fully in the immediate area. Would you call for the torch, or are you just exploring with your rings?
I would probably just be exploring with my rings at the moment. But I would call back and just ask, if they notice anything happening, so to say.
Yeah, Jarek would say one of the the flames in one of the eyes in the left eye went out. And does
I
this
did.
opening uh sorry, does this opening look like something Jarek could crawl through? I mean, with difficulty, or is it too small? Terran's kind of the only one who would fit.
So again, like the only person who can't fit is the person who is wearing metal armor. Quinn would have to remove her armor to fit through. The two medium creatures, like medium creatures, can fit through, just not with metal armor.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, it's all good. What it kind of comes down to is it's like tight on you all, versus like Terran. I think you're a small creature. At very least, I know like the two of your main characters are not armored, or again, not metal armor.
And yeah, Terran is a small creature.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that hole is much easier for you to like crawl through versus them actually having to like squeeze through, kind of thing. So while you're kind of like responding back to them, you would at least see from this side, there's just a smooth kind of like inset into that wall. And you're basically looking at like smooth stonework. But you can almost see like the little bit of it's not a recess, but like you almost see like moguls from the backs of the skulls, but they're not actually bone. This is like a stone wall that just kind of like reaches in a little bit, and you can basically see out of the mouth to the other side is this opening. All of the rest of this inside is stone, and then to your right and to the left, you can see the walls, and they are floor to ceiling skulls, and all of these skulls are just kind of lined up. They form all of the walls, and in little spots here and there, you can see like larger and smaller gaps in them that you start to notice, like almost honeycombs in those walls, like just to the north and south of you.
Yeah, good thing I don't have trypophobia. Just gonna call back to the others. Yeah, I mean, you're all welcome to join me on the other side. I'd rather prefer it, to be honest. Don't really want to be
Where
held up.
am I?
Uh, who said that?
How did I get here? I can't see you.
From where can I
Are you
hear this?
there?
Just gonna ask, like, from which direction do I hear this voice? Or
Roll a perception check.
And can Jarek or the others on this other side hear anything of this?
You heard Taryn talking to you and then go silent. While he was kind of saying, I would really appreciate you guys coming over here, he's just gonna go quiet. And Taryn, you kind of like try to like sense this. You're gonna very quickly recognize this is how Eku speaks quite often. You are hearing this in your head. Why can't I see anything?
I'm just gonna step before and call out, even if it's in my head. I'm gonna call it out. But sorry, the name's Taryn. Who am I talking to?
I don't remember my name. My father would have sent you? Are you here for my father?
Taryn, everything all right in there?
Yeah,
Where are you?
I'm in a room. It's kind of dark in here. I can't see if there's anyone else.
Do you think you are speaking out loud, or do you think you are trying to telepathically respond?
I'm still speaking out loud.
Gotcha. So, Jarek, you're going to hear kind of his side of this conversation. And I don't mean to interrupt you, but every time, Jarek, like, I'm going to interrupt when I'm doing her voice here.
Oh yeah. I think Jarek's gonna look to Zeros and Quinn. He's like, I'm going through, like, hearing him seeming to talk to somebody, and Jarek is gonna attempt to start climbing through to the other side as well.
Nipartak, I'm the granddaughter of the queen. This is my father sent for you. Where are you? As Jarek climbs through, the two standing outside are going to see as the last eyeball goes out. There are now no flames burning.
Then Taryn is gonna call them. You're the granddaughter of the queen. Uh,
Queen Napata,
all right, then. Don't worry. We'll find a way to help you. Just try to calm down.
you seem close, but you won't show yourself. Reveal yourself to me. Help me or why are you taunting me?
I'm sorry. I don't mean to be taunting. It's dark in here, and I can't really see anyone. I'm trying to find you from your voice. Just
I
keep
can't
talking.
see anything.
Taryn,
So,
did
what
oh
do you think,
sorry,
Jack? Go ahead.
did Taryn say the voice Napaka out loud?
No, I just said the queen, and you're the granddaughter of the queen.
Gotcha. Okay, then disregard.
Technically, from the moment you climbed in, you would hear the same voice in your head.
Oh, okay.
So what? Like, I think as you climbed in is actually when she was saying that, when she was figuring out her name. So yeah, you're probably like head inside of it, and maybe you hear like the end of it. But for what it's worth, you basically hear her recognize her name as Napartak. And then you would have at very least picked up the full name of Napaka when she referenced the queen. Um, if you missed the first part, though, I feel like it's acceptable to recognize like they have at least similar enough names that if you heard like Partak and then you hear Napaka, you can figure out like Napartak.
Okay. Because Jarek's like the Taryn. He's gonna whistle like, didn't Napaka die years ago? Trying to recall what they had heard from what back when they had met with the king and or the I guess the queen and king now or future ones back at the Arakokra monastery. He's gonna look to the sarcophagus like in there. Whoever.
So that's kind of where what I was getting at. As Terran explores a little bit more, assuming he's rocking out the ring still, Jarek, did you grab the torch from Zeros, or have you come in just basically with Terran lighting up this little area?
Yeah, I think he would have had Zeros essentially light up a torch that he and Quinn are not left in darkness, but he would have taken a torch as he climbed through.
Gotcha. Kind of like calling for a torch It'd be a lot like a doctor kind of like calling for a scalpel here. As you step into the room and bring a torch into this situation, the two of you are going to very quickly recognize that there is a cube of crystal that is about a foot by a foot sitting on a pedestal raised up from the ground looking over this sarcophagus, and there is a skull floating inside of it. There is a coiled snake on top of this sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is about 10 to 12 feet, so like 7 or 8 meters, like foot to head. Maybe about a third of that wide. But you can see the coiled snake. I don't think it's too much to say at this point. You guys can recognize that this is probably the tomb of Mao. You know my grandmother? Don't spread rumors. She's healthy. Where are you? I hear you so close.
Yeah, I was gonna say by now.
Servants?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna say by now Quinn is also trying to take off her armor. It's gonna take some time.
Gotcha. Yeah, without looking it up, I believe it is 5 minutes for Quinn to be able to take off her armor. Why do you hide yourselves, servants? Show yourself.
We're trying, but I mean we can hear you clearly too, but we can't see you.
Just gonna like start to hear like little kind of sobs, kind of sniffles. What have you done? Why can't I see you? Where are you hiding yourselves?
I'm sorry, little one, but like I said, we aren't trying to hide. We're trying to find you, but we can't seem to. Do you remember how you got here?
What do you see?
Darkness. Everything is darkness. I don't remember when I came here. Just remember darkness. Why can't I see you? You seem so close.
I don't know. It might be some magic. Not really sure.
Jarek's gonna look towards Taryn and then kind of like gesture towards the sarcophagus and kind of like make a pushing motion with his hands, and then like should I?
Yeah, now Taryn will nod, trying not to say anything out loud.
Let me get a deception on that last one from you, Taryn. Or we're trying not to. Or we're trying to, rather. Trying to convince her. So as you guys start to like move over towards towards the same side of the sarcophagus, kind of like setting down the torch. Would you like set down the torch on top of the sarcophagus so you can get full purchase to push it?
Yeah, I think he'd want to be using both hands or have both hands free. Yep.
Gotcha. So when you two are ready, let me have you make a DC or a strength athletics check. Gotcha. So you guys are gonna like kind of get your hands on top of this, and as you start to push, you're going to hear the slow grind of this stone as the top of the sarcophagus is sliding off, and you're going to kind of notice like the glow of the torch on top of the sarcophagus is putting off like a soft yellow light that's kind of like bringing a little bit of like the green of the vines and the lichen in this room to view, but you kind of have a pretty like closed off view of everything, as far as like where the light's going. And as you kind of like say this, kind of like we're trying to help you and start to move around to make that push, you're going to basically start to hear this sliding as the western side of this room is going to start to glow with a green kind of ripple of light. And the two of you are both going to notice from your peripherals that this skull that is inside of that crystal now has burning green eyes, and the eyes are burning on fire. I need you guys to roll for initiative.
I think never open the sarcophagus.
And Jarek, for what it's worth, you might even hear in your head, "She seems angry, sir."
Yeah, as he goes to like, even this is like he's starting to slide it. It's like,
So as you guys start to notice this, there is going to be an explosion, and we are actually going to start off with the two of you making dexterity saving throws.
I might use my.
You're good. What are you thinking? Drop a couple inspiration to succeed.
Yeah, I was gonna use uh 2 to make that a 16.
Gotcha. Yeah, my bad. I was like in the process, and I have to admit, I do not have quick reactions.
Well, I mean, I could have been quicker to say what I was doing on my end.
No, no, I feel like anybody with faster reactions. I'm pretty sure my brain was like, "Oh yeah, you should probably not roll." He's thinking about inspiration. And then like I'm like clicking and I'm like, "You just said to yourself, don't roll," and now you're clicking dice, and then the dice rolled. You know what I mean? Like that all happens in my head, but I still don't react to it happening in my head.
Yeah, I did try to like move my eyes away so I didn't actually see the rolls.
So yeah, that'll be enough that Jarek can dodge like the brood of this flame. Taryn, if you would like, I think with evasion you can take no damage here. You will be successful. I don't think it costs you anything. It's just one per turn, I think. But I
I
think
mean,
now you're high enough level.
no, I'm still level 8. I don't have evasion yet. I still only have uncanny dodge.
I thought you got it. I'm
Oh,
pretty sure you get
oh.
evasion at 7th level.
Do I? I
Yeah, I
mean,
thought last time we figured out that you did have it.
Yeah, 11th level is
yeah, right. I do.
reliable talent,
Sorry.
I think.
It's just because for some reason it doesn't show up until I go in under.
Well, it's passive, so you don't have to do
Yeah.
anything to do it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
just a
it's
passive
there.
ability.
If I succeed, I don't take any. Yeah. Otherwise, I only take half.
Yeah. So, you'll take 10 damage from that, Jarek, as this room's going to explode. From there, the first reaction is gonna go to what I rolled a 19, so it's Jarek.
Yeah, Jarek is going to, as this kind of skull lights up, he's going to draw his blades, and he's going to instinctively start slashing
My
out of the
bad.
skull.
No, no, yeah, this is fine. Go ahead.
And then with the short sword,
So 2 solid strikes into it,
The
dropping.
short sword is not magical, if that makes a difference. I don't know.
Gotcha. Can you do let's just take the sneak attack from the short sword, because that's technically the first D6. Gotcha.
Oh, sure. Yep.
You can do the 5. I was saying it while you were doing it anyways. So all 3 of those are going to hit, dealing 36 damage. So you're going to kind of like cut chunks into this like crystal encasement. As you're like cutting into this thing, you can see signs that like the skull is inside of there. I think for what it's worth, that's enough to like destroy the encasement here. But you've basically just like opened up to this actual thing. You don't necessarily feel like you've gotten any strikes into it. And that will take us to Terran. Well, unless you'd like to move. I guess also Zeros. Would Zeros like to climb inside? Is Zeros going to sling a bolt through the mouth?
So I think it's only 32 damage. You said 36, but it's because one-handed slashing with the cutlass.
Oh, okay, because I was looking at two-handed. My bad. I was doing
Yep.
two-handed before because you were striking blatantly with only that weapon. So what is it? It's 17, 27, 32?
Yeah. I think
I think
Zero.
that's fine to still say like it shatters the actual like encasement around the skull.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I just didn't want to have you have feel more damage than I actually did. I think Zeros is going to he's gonna like go and look and peer through the skull, not climbing in immediately, but if he sees this thing, he will since he's trying to reach his hand through and let off a couple blasts.
Gotcha. So slinging the bolts from range. Let's just get it'll have like a little bit of increased AC because you're striking through the mouth, but in the long run it's still yeah, that's good. 2 solid strikes into it for another 9.
And I think for now he's not climbing through. Staying on this side.
Gotcha. And then on to Taryn. What would you like to do, sir?
Well, I wouldn't have had my daggers out, so I'm gonna summon those with my bonus action, and then I'm going to attack once.
Gotcha. Solid strike into it, dealing H25 more damage. You'll see like the actual blade of these weapons has like pierced through the actual skull and created like a pretty horrific like crack into the actual skull on top of this thing. Some of the other damage you guys have done like kind of like blasted it back like from the bolts, but this is the actual like physical wound you would see, kind of pulling yourself away from the flames. Yeah, I think that's actually, I'm sorry, that's a psych out. It would 100% shield itself from the first bit of damage, I think, actually. Yeah, I think while you guys actually come down. No, let's put it to a die, because this is a little girl. Yeah, those attacks are going to go through. You'll see as that pierces through, like, the center of the skull and almost, like, cracks out one of the little, like, puzzle pieces of the skull, like, on the top of the, like, you can even see where the cranium's not, like, fully fused together, how young this child was. Anything from Quinn or any other movement from Taryn?
Would we say that Quinn had managed to get her armor off yet? Or
Definitely not 5 minutes.
yep, no. Then she's just
If
gonna try.
she wants to help, she's kind of like picking up a crossbow. She's got a bow of some sort. She could pick up her bow and kind of take that shot.
Yeah, then that is what she's gonna do.
Gotcha. So same idea. There's definitely a reduced or an increase to the AC, trying to shoot through the mouth and make your target, but she can take that shot. And same idea. She can take 2 of them with I guess technically, as long as it's not a crossbow, she can take 2. I think we've been saying she just has like a short bow.
Yeah, basically. How did we roll? Was
So
just
yeah, I think
neutral?
just roll 2d20 and we'll go +6 is probably her modifier, and then roll 2d6 or a d6 rather, for each one, and she'll have probably whatever her dexterity is, for those
Yeah, so
modifiers. Actually,
+0. Just a D6.
+0 proficiency with the bow though, so she would have a d20 +3 and then just a d6 for damage.
Okay,
Because
so
I don't
D20.
think she would be non-proficient. One of those will hit, so roll 1d6 for the damage as she shoots a arrow through, kind of plinks through. Yeah, gonna kind of like plink through one of the eyeballs and out the back of the skull, and the flame is going to go stagnant. The eyes are going to burn out, and the skull is just going to kind of like rest down into the fluid that it was like sitting in. The inside of this case is kind of like spilled out across the floor, but this is just kind of like a small skull now sitting like in this shattered like crystal case before you. You guys are going to hear some creepy crawlies, but there's gonna be a kind of weird moment here where the skull goes stagnant and everything around you kind of goes silent. And you kind of recognize those like beehives and holes, not beehives, but like the holes, the honeycombing of this place is like all around you. When you're casting this light closer to the wall, you can see and you hear that there are things walking inside of these walls. Tiny little critters, but they seem to kind of go silent for a moment when the skull goes out.
So Jarek, as this happens, is he's going to turn his attention back to the sarcophagus and go to try and essentially grab the torch up again and try to peer inside.
So, looking inside, you are going to find I believe there's actually the bones of a snake coiled inside of this. Um, yeah, you're going to see these like bones kind of coiled up in the center. You can kind of see some like remnants of cloth that was almost like folded over this coil of bones, but has since disintegrated. So there's almost like kind of like the misty film of like linen or like spider webs almost like sitting over basically this coiled like spine of a snake, in the center of it. And beside the snake, you will see a long um, wooden staff that has kind of like a kind of classical wooden base, and then about a foot up of the staff you can see as 2 snake tails start to coil in opposite coils, and every about foot and a half the snakes kind of cross each other again, as like up this central staff there's 2 snakes coiled, and by the time you get to like where the staff head is, there's basically a snake head like looking one direction and a snake head looking the other. You can see as each of them kind of expand out part of their torsos to make almost that cobra kind of wings, as they like flex out their throat and their jaw. And these kind of two snakes are looking in opposite directions away from the central staff. It's about 5.5 or 6 feet tall.
So Jarek is he's almost looking like apologetically towards the bones, because grave robbing's not really his thing, but if this could be useful, he's going to reach in and try to take the staff out.
So the moment you contact your fingers with the staff, you're going to be grabbing it regardless. But like the moment he comes in contact with it, you guys are going to see as like a wisp of green smoke is going to like flow out of the staff and kind of start to coil around Jarek's wrist. And as it flows up his arm, it's going to split into, again, kind of that double helix shape as it starts to coil around your arm. And just like in an instant, this like smoke flows up your arm and it's gone from view. And Jarek, you are going to hear, "Let me help you. I promise to be good."
Jarek's gonna look towards Taryn. Do you hear that?
Yeah, what?
You would have heard nothing. You would have seen
Jarek,
the smoke, though, to at least recognize like somewhat of where his question's coming from.
Yeah, but I'm gonna. Yeah, no, I didn't hear anything. Just saw the smoke.
Jarek's gonna look at the staff like that he's holding, and sorry, who are you? He's gonna say that out loud, feeling a little foolish, but then again, he's been talking to his sword for a while, so not that strange.
So if you will check on Discord there, you are gaining those. You're going to hear this voice again inside of your head. "I am how? You don't seem very magical. I can help with that."
We could certainly use the help.
"You've come to save us, to free us, to help us."
We've come to destroy the soulmonger.
Soulmonger. I don't know what that is. If we've been imprisoned by it, you can help us with that. You should help us break out of prison. You're Omawan. You owe us. You should serve me. I think you'll serve me well. I can give you power.
I am not a Mauen, but if helping you can help us, then
From
yes.
their lines. You've not fled? Come back? No, from much farther away. You've come to serve? This will be kind of a different, odd sort of conversation that you're having here. There's a certain level of you don't actually have to respond. While you have the consciousness of Mao inside of you, Jarek, you are going to have your thoughts kind of pulled away from you. So Mao can ask questions kind of itself because it is you, forcing you to recall things and kind of come to conclusions. And that should be kind of a weird level of how some of those conversations should kind of happen in your head, as this thing's like exploring your mind, trying to figure out more and more about you. Both like recognizing your like sense of duty and starting to kind of appeal to like your sense of virtue.
Gotcha. It's almost like he's almost like thinking it before he can say it, and before he has to say it, it knows what he.
Yeah, it basically has the connection with your head that by asking the question, it's almost already forcing you to recall the thing. So that is what you're thinking about. And when it floats on the surface of your thought, it can read it. So
Gotcha.
how much he recognizes doesn't necessarily matter. It's going to be very weird of a feeling because that's how like the conversation's going to flow.
Okay. Um, yeah, so Jarek would be thinking like when it asks about you came to serve, Jarek would be thinking, yes, for hired by Syndra. He's Jarek's kind of thinking we've kind of it's moved beyond that at this point. Um, and he's also here for his own reasons, so it's not a straight yes or no, like kind of some of the reasons that he had been speaking about at Oralunga.
So in the long run, like if you have questions for effectively Mao, like you can let me know. It's going to kind of egg you onward and kind of look for you to keep exploring. Pretty regularly, it's going to kind of remind you, like, I'm here to help you succeed. I can help you, but I need you. I cannot affect this place, but you can. I can help you. I can give you power.
Jarek would um, he would like be like he would yes help would be welcome. Do you know anything about you would be thinking kind of do you know anything about keys, skeleton keys in these tombs?
We've been destroyed here. The people of Omu were all destroyed here. I don't know how I'm kept here, but I'm there. And you'll like feel like your neck kind of like craning to look at those bones inside of the sarcophagus. I'm here and everywhere. The last of my followers laid this body to rest, and they were to die here. It's kept us all here. But you know of us. You've come to free us.
I think Jarek would be thinking that's actually not kind of why we came.
You don't understand your reasons, but now that you're here, you can be the one to free us. You've brought friends. You can help us.
I suppose can. Yes. And then he's gonna be like thinking like almost like this is a stupid question, Mao, but say be holding this staff to speak with you?
Do you not accept its power?
I am more comfortable with a pair of blades in my hand.
It's unfortunate. You do lack. But I should think you're stuck with me. I believe I'll keep you.
Do I have any choice?
Of course you do.
Jarek's gonna think about it, but eventually he'll decide. Yeah,
Onward.
he'll hold on to the staff for now. Yeah.
I knew you would choose correctly. So, Taryn, this entire time you've been standing there while Jarek's had the one-sided conversation with himself. Probably roughly around this point is where Quinn could certainly be like finishing taking off her armor.
Yeah, by then she would probably try to climb through, just to make sure that we're safe in there.
When she climbs through, the jaw is going to close. Those crampons or those pythons are going to get disintegrated as they are crunched down on this thing. Let me get I think a dexterity saving throw from Quinn. I think she's a straight D20, and I think this is going to be extremely difficult to accomplish. So you're looking at a pretty high roll here. Let me get a dexterity saving throw, please. So the jaws are going to clamp down as they destroy the pythons. They are going to clamp down on Quinn inside of it. And I could have already tried to translate the skull to figure out what it would do to a minion. So let's actually see its attack. So 13, that's a miss. As she's kind of like
Well,
biting down,
would it
She
be a
doesn't
miss
have
if she
armor,
doesn't?
her armor.
right?
Yeah,
So she
no
has
armor.
a 10 AC.
Yeah, what is it like? Isn't it 11
Yeah.
or whatever it is?
I think AC normally starts at 10 and then goes
Yes.
up based on your dexterity.
Oh, okay. So
Or
then,
with
yeah,
heavy
then
enough
it's 10.
armor, it's just the flat. Yeah, so it's going to crunch down onto her. It is going to deal. So I think this is just a con 11 Constitution save. So she has to roll like what is it, 8 or above? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's going to like bite down onto her. And as she kind of like slides through on the other side, like she's like bruised and hurt. But this is no more damage than a warrior and adventurer gets from being like thrown across the room and hitting a wall. It's the type of thing that hurts. It is not like a mortal wound. But those pythons have been destroyed, and she has a relatively solid sense that perhaps the pythons have taken the brunt of that. Zeros will see from the other side as both eyes catch fire, and there are now two flames burning, one in the left eye socket and one in the right.
Yeah, when Quinn gets through, she's gonna call back to Ceres and just ask him if he can throw her armor to her.
Yeah, I think without too much problem, once the armor doesn't have her body in between it, she can fit the armor through.
Are you sure you want it in there? Put it on, you won't be able to get back out again.
Yeah, but if we're gonna whatever, if it's not gonna go back through, she'd rather have it with her, even if she can't put it back on right now.
But if I understanding these skull correctly, it seems that two can go through. The third is the trouble. The eyes are lit up again, by the way. But Zeros will, nevertheless, he will start to move to put the armor through. Yeah.
Yeah, she just take it with a thank you.
Mao, is there anything else in here we need to do, or should we continue on? I believe you told me already. Onwards, yes?
Yeah, as far as what you're gonna get there, it just kind of like pushes you forward.
Yeah, so Jarek is going to move back towards the entrance. Like, gonna yeah, he's gonna see like Zeros coming back out, and probably a little awkwardly, like holding the staff with him. He kind of has to maneuver his body a little bit, but he's gonna try and squeeze back through.
So you can squeeze back on through, find yourself back to the other side. You'll see that there is now the right socket is lit with a little bit of a fire, and the left socket is no longer. Now it is dark.
One more of you, I think, can come through, but the third is going to again face. I think the same thing might happen.
Yeah, this is where I'm gonna take a chance. Terry's gonna tell Quinn to go through first. He's kind of banking on him being nimble enough to get through without taking too much of damage, but we'll see.
So as she squeezes through, the right eye socket is going to go dark, and the skull no longer has any flames burning in it. You can hand her armor back through behind her.
Yeah, I'm doing that. Question: how big is the hole for, like, for someone like Taryn? Can I? Just a thought. Can I have like a running start and try to just straight up jump through it?
You could certainly try.
Sure, I'm gonna try that. So taking a bit of a head start.
Roll a dexterity check or acrobatics.
And I think I'm gonna use my inspiration on this too. I'm thinking 5, just for safety.
Have you already rolled it? You can save those until you actually see the roll, but you can roll it and then decide like if you want to use and then how many.
Oh, okay. I thought we had to say it before, but yeah, okay, sure.
Letting me know ahead of time helps though, because it makes sure that I don't actually respond. Yeah, but you can see that you're executing it pretty safely. I don't think you have any call, but it's your call to decide whether a 26 is high enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the 26 then, because if that isn't high enough, I don't think it's gonna be enough with the others.
Gotcha. So might be the type of thing Yeah, I think what it's going to be is I'm actually going to give you a dexterity saving throw for this. Roll a dexterity saving throw. As you leap through, you hit kind of center of the like hole out towards them. The teeth are going to clamp shut as this jaw closes. And I think this is one of those places where evasion doesn't make too much sense to me. But being where the attack is coming from, you can evade and not take any damage as it clamps down on you. Yeah, not really sure how that one works out, like how to flavor things, but you are able to leap through and basically kind of like feel this like chomp at your feet. And you can almost like feel the force of these jaws, these jaws like closing as your toes are kind of getting through to the other side. No damage. And there are
Yeah, I'm
two
glad that
fires
worked.
lit up in the eyes again.
Jarek's just shaking his head.
Yeah, man, that worked. But let's not do that again.
That's a good idea.
So I think what we are going to go to here is I think we'll probably leave it at this point, basically, and pick up from maybe the staircase next week. Putting you guys just back in the staircase so you can kind of decide unexplored, the fan, or going back towards the window. Those are kind of like your three points, or really like down the stairs. But you have those kind of four directions yet to explore. I think we'll kind of leave it here and we'll pick up from there next week.
Yeah, sounds good. And then after next week is when we kind of have that couple weeks of break, right?
Oh, actually,
Schedule.
that's one of those things where I think next week is a Chris week, and then we've got your 2 weeks, so we might actually be taking a more extended break.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. 'Cause next week I am working.
So what is it? It is yeah, the 24th. It looks like we're basically looking at coming back second week of August. And I think what is that? That's like Taryn's off week, and then we would come back the final week of August. So it looks like we're gonna go like every other week in August.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean,
that's
after those 2 weeks, I shouldn't have any other big.
Well, it's still back down to, though, part of it would be like you're coming back on Chris's third week, so he'll work the week after that. Um,
Oh, right,
and
right,
while
right.
we could plan something between the two of us, it's I don't know if I have any other sources to kind of like give you guys entertaining and kind of on topic stuff that pertains to this game. That's part of the biggest thing there. So now that you guys are inside of here, you're kind of inside of here.
Yeah, if anything, it would be something I would think about maybe if there's like 1 week trying to do like seeing if anyone else wanted to do like a Tollus kind of West Marches thing, rather than trying to do like a one shot related to this.
Hey, precisely. Yeah, that would be almost exactly what I have in mind.
Um,
So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys got a solid sense of what this place is, because you're not going to be encountering a whole lot of stuff here. You're going to be encountering things like this where every direction you see, it's like, how far forward do we get to move before it's trying to kill us?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Do
I'm
you
I'm
guys
I'm enjoying it
know
so far.
You have a solid sense, though. Are you guys planning on trying to do your best to explore these levels? Like, can I continue to prepare this level before expecting that you go down the stairs?
Yeah, Jarek is well because Jarek's thinking like we don't, from what he remembers, like we don't want to go, you know, too far without. We need to find those keys. So he is
Yeah.
definitely for explore every kind of nook and cranny that we have to. Yeah.
I believe you all know that there is essentially a key on each level. So I think that's kind of the thing that would keep you. You want to explore until you find. I don't know if you guys know the shape of the key because they're all like geometric shapes or what the keys are. But that is among the things that I think you guys understand without looking at my notes, that the keys are kind of stashed on individual levels and you almost like progress through looking for these keys.
Yeah, I think he they were called skeleton keys, but he doesn't know what they look like. He assumes that they look like keys, but